not everybody needs to be in therapy, especially if you are highly driven, type A, entrepreneurial, or a person whose character traits have contributed to your career or financial success. I think this is the right time to talk about this as an addiction recovery coach who's worked with highly successful individuals and achieved a measure of success myself. I used to think at a certain point that everyone should get coached or everyone should work with a therapist or have meditation retreats or plant medicine retreats experiences. Depending on the person, I felt there was something for everybody. But the truth is, for some people, the coping mechanism that they have is the best thing for them in the situation they're in. And this may be a hard thing for some of you to hear. Many high performing, high functioning, successful individuals have compulsions, have eccentricities, have certain behaviors that could be classified as narcissistic. And the best that they can actually do is manage it. Why? I'll give you an analogy. It's like if you have an old car. So for years, I've had a Porsche, and then I had a 2005 Toyota Camry, which I still have and still drive. It's an older car, which means that if you've ever had the experience of putting a new part in a much older car with older parts, sometimes everything just falls apart and everything breaks. That's kind of what it's like for certain high performers, certain very successful individuals. I'm not saying that it is certain, but I know that if you're one of those people watching, one of the reasons you haven't sought out coaching or any sort of support for your issues is because there is a fear that the things that made you successful, those maybe narcissistic traits, those compulsions, those things that people label as weird, that if they were fixed, just like the vehicle, everything else would need fixing and everything would fall apart. Interestingly, in many cases, it's not just about you. So sometimes people look at highly successful people, usually those who are high performing as well, and think, well, they're selfish for not changing those aspects of their behavior. At a certain point, your career, your success, all those things that you have built up materially and otherwise might be supporting many people. And the process of going through therapy or coaching or ending a compulsion, which may not be life-threatening or threatening people around you, but maybe causing you some pain, that could cause pain to a lot of people. And one of the dirty secrets of many, many successful people, whether it is successful writers, creatives, actors included in that category, entrepreneurs, politicians, is that the people in their inner circle understand how different they are and that they do have some damaging traits. I wouldn't go as far as calling them broken. I'm very careful with wording, but many of them do have those traits. And those who are most successful do a phenomenal job at managing them, not trying to end them, because the process of working through that, well, that could not even be resolved in a lifetime in some cases. So it's a very challenging decision to make. And the hard part is many individuals in this situation don't have people they can talk to about it. So in the process of helping powerful individuals with their sexual compulsions, on occasion, they will share their fear with me, right? They will divulge that there is a fear that if they let go of that desire within them to chase and win and dominate, whether it is sexually or otherwise, that if they got rid of that, it would also take away the very thing that got them in a position to, in a way, influence their choice, their spouse's decision to be with them, the schools their kids are going to, the employees that they have and their families, and many other responsibilities or civic obligations that they now have. And it is a very real thing that a person's entire personality can collapse, and a lot of people can suffer as a result of that. And I often tell them that, it is, first of all, it's a decision they have to make, and it's a big deal that they shared it. At the same time, they have to sit and look at the pros and cons of how much harm is this actually doing in the world? How much harm is this doing to you and causing your loved ones? And if the behavior cannot be ended without great risk to yourself and those around you, what does management of a compulsive behavior, very strong or narcissistic personality, what does managing that in the long term look like, in a way that there is honesty behind it, and there's a good volition behind it, and that there isn't any blowback? And there are many ways to do this. It's one of the things I've had no choice but to learn how to specialize in my practice, which is speaking to highly successful people who have secret compulsions and behaviors, but are just afraid that they could risk everything if they even started going down that path. So you've created all sorts of defense mechanisms to address this, like, that's silly, that's for weak people, that's sitting around doing nothing, that's not being productive, that's going to mess you up, that's, you never know. So sometimes there is a lot of fear, and there's nothing behind the fear. But other times, I have seen it happen. It is very real. And for those of you out there who feel that way, or have a loved one who is, you're like, man, he definitely or she definitely needs help, but I can tell being close to them that they are afraid to get it because they're afraid it's going to change who they are, let them know that there's nothing wrong with managing it, especially if it is out of control to the point that it is hurting them, it is hurting you as the loved one, or it's hurting people around them. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about myself for a moment. I do have compulsions, impulsive tendencies, certain aggressive personality traits that over the years I have learned to harness and manage, to have accountability partners in my personal life and in my business life who help me manage those, and who, we call it in our system, they call it having a reboot circle, which means a circle of support that you have with different people who call you out, right? So in your circle of support, you may have your pastor or a spiritual guide. You may have a spouse or a girlfriend. You may have a group of very close friends. You may have an elderly mentor. You may have a men's group or some social group. And between all of these groups, you're able to kind of spread out those parts of yourself so it isn't concentrated on one person like your spouse, and have light conversations or laugh about things. And the way you talk about these things is different with different parts of that circle. But what it does is that it allows you to talk about it, to name it in certain parts of the circle, and to manage it much better. In my case, there are a lot of people who depend on me. And it is these very traits that got me there. And a quick story to end this in the next 30 seconds. For the past 3 years or so, I have been going deeper into my spiritual journey, meditating a lot more, at some points up to 2 hours a day. And yes, a length of time on the cushion, diligently doing the work does correlate to the changes that come up. But I had an experience at a retreat last year where I had a moment days of very deep sadness. I went so deep into my meditation that I got to a place where I realized that, like of a mini ego death, so to speak, where I was like, what's the point? It's all pointless. It doesn't matter whether you're helping people end their behavior with pornography. Like, none of this stuff really matters. And since that experience last year, a part of me that enjoyed the chase and the pursuits and winning, a part of it just disappeared. And while one would think I'd be more content with that, I'm not. As a matter of fact, externally, it actually made life more challenging because I needed to motivate myself more to accomplish things because I had obligations to other people. And I think that is a very real danger when pursuing the introspective or the spiritual path, which is the more you realize the way the world works from the inner journey, the more you realize how the external doesn't matter as much and the things we're attached to. Unfortunately, we're in relationships. We have parents, lovers, children, employees, dependents, other people who depend on us on those internal things for an easier life. So I have faced that and learned how to manage it. And I'm figuring something out now. I don't have the answer for myself. But if you are dealing with that, I just want you to know that there are ways to manage it. There are professionals who can have conversations with you about it. And of course, I'm always available to have this conversation. To keep it private, you don't need to apply for a call. But if you DM me, I handle my DMs personally. Nobody has access to those accounts. And I'm always happy to have a little back and forth conversation on this topic. So anybody who watched till the end, if you have thoughts that you'd like to share about this, you can DM or drop it in the comment section. Thanks for listening.